Thank you, Melanie and Will, for your readings, which are adapted from Edward Benton-Banai's Mishona's book, specifically chapter 13 about the seven fires. Today's readings are a very abbreviated history of the full set of prophecies, the origin stories of when Ojibwe, that some people know that as Chippewa, they used to be called that. The origin stories of when Ojibwe people lived in the northeastern part of the continent. Their migration west to the Great Lakes area where food grows on water, that would be wild rice, and more recent times of white European immigrants arriving, settling closer and closer, making and breaking promises, usurping land and resources relied upon by the original people, and attempts to strip Indigenous children of their language, family, culture, and spiritual teachings. I knew Edward Benton-Banai as my first boss, as Carolyn said, and he was the founder of the Red Schoolhouse in St. Paul, where I worked at the beginning of my social work career. It was one of two Native-led survival schools in the Twin Cities. Edward Benton first wrote a series of the Mishona's book. I read one of these a few months ago, along with Anne, when she read Water Protectors. He first published the Mishona's book as a series of coloring books in the 1970s, and then expanded on those teachings to publish the Mishona's book in the 1980s. And these are teachings and stories that were passed on to him by his father and grandfathers and great-grandfathers, as those stories were passed on to them and their forefathers. Edward Benton was a lifelong educator and also an activist and co-founder of the American Indian Movement. And he helped launch the International Indian Treaty Council, advocating for the rights of Indigenous nations to govern themselves. Eddie died in 2020 at the age of 89. By that time, he had moved back to the Lakudere Band of Anishinaabe in northern Wisconsin, where he was Grand Chief of the three fires in the Decorah Lodge. We're going to see a little bit, be able to see Eddie on the screen there, but most importantly, hear Eddie speak in a few video clips from a talk he gave about 10 years ago called Prophecies, Mining, and Water. And I'll let Carolyn play that first clip.
He heads up the Three Fires Medewan Lodge. He is in the back making his rounds amongst all the ladies. He is also the Dean of the Native American Studies at Shingwauk University today. He is gracing us with his presence as he makes himself available and forward here. And his name is Badwewe Dunn, Edward Benton-Banai, and he's going to speak with us, at us, around us for a few minutes about some of the things he learned from his grandparents and great-great-grandparents, which when you add to his time on this earth takes us back to the Middle Ages, 1700s at least, he says. Edward Benton-Banai, Badwewe Dunn.
Miigwech, bonjour de Waimaganeduk, Badoiran Benesi Indigenous cause, Ojibwe and Anishinaabe and Da, or the Hawazaga Eganing and Donjiba. Miuma Gay Gionda to Sian. The term Gionda to Sian going Jaganashi Moon Gay Gungi on the sea. We went in Anishinaabe Kina, Giojimoimo, Umash Kuniganing. Giving up in my decision, Anishinaabe EOP. Going up, but you gave me a question in the work. Going up, but you. He Kitimag is even Gaya. Ewa pia Anishinaabe uyang. We went to we went to Anishinaabe. We went to any nation between the manama. Gaisha nawak. Gaisha bimat siyang yabe Anishinaabe uyang. Gani yabe uga Ishinaago sinon bimat siwin. Nasam gaisha bimat siyang mayusha. We went to Koinga Shaganashi. Miigwech. Are there any questions? I was not speaking a foreign language. I was speaking our sacred language called Ojibwe Mowin. And it is a sacred language. Our teachings and our ways of life tell us that. It is the Spirit Creator who gave us this language. This language doesn't come from somewhere else. This language doesn't belong to somebody else. All the foreign languages that are spoken here came from somebody else.
And you can stop. Thank you. So I just invite you to take a moment to reflect on what you heard, just, and not an analysis or thinking about it, just sensing what it feels like inside of you now to have heard Eddie speak so far. Just take a moment to feel that inside of yourself. And does anybody want to share out anything about that? Just your own experience?
Please use the mic.
Well, I like to. That little one? No. The big one?
Yeah.
Well, I like to sense of humor. And yeah, it's the first time I've thought that language came from, well, most Native Americans' language didn't come from any place else, any other continents or countries. So that was interesting.
I was thinking of how closely the words foreign and the other are. So we often think of foreigners as the other. I mean, in our culture, many people do. It's not a good way to think of it, but many people do. And so foreign, to be foreign is to be the other. And as soon as we make people the other, we know what happens.
I was just thinking in sadness, how many of us here who are very much adult and over have probably never heard anyone speak in a Native American language for any length of time as we did this morning, and how beautiful it was, how soft and how inviting that language is, and how much I would like to know everything that he said and be able to understand it in his words. So.
Carolyn will play the next clip.
Prophesied long before the light-skinned race ever got here. The light-skinned race that arrived here upon this land was prophesied to us at least 300 years before they ever got here. And along with that prophecy came some other prophecies, things that would happen if we were not careful. We were told.
Should be 6:45 to 8:55.
That is it.
It is. It should start with this time.
Be careful about some of the things that we would accept. We were told always to hang on to what was given to us, because it had brought us to this time of life for thousands and thousands of years. We have been here on this continent, we, the Anishinaabe people, The word Anishinaabe means all indigenous people of this part of the world. We are all Anishinaabe because we are the original people of this part of the world. We understand that Lakotas are the Lakota Anishinaabe. Menominee are the Menominee Anishinaabe. The Oneidas are the Oneida Anishinaabe. The Six Nations people are the Six Nations Anishinaabe. So that term there, it's kind of being used wrong in a lot of ways. A lot of people identify only the Ojibwe-speaking people as an Anishinaabe. But we are all Anishinaabe because we are the original people of this part of the world. Our creation story tells us that this is where the Creator Spirit put us. We didn't come from somewhere else. We didn't come from somewhere else as the anthropologists and missionaries write. That's a pack of lies. We did not come from somewhere else. This is where the Creator set us. This is our homeland. This is our homeland. This is our homeland.
And again, I invite you to just take a moment to reflect on what you heard and how that feels inside of you. Again, not looking for an analysis or even your opinion, but just how it sits with you and feels inside of you. And if anybody wants to share out about that, you're welcome to do so.
I just thought it was powerful that as he was saying those words, they were scrolling on the screen of all the different people in the room. That really got me.
I get nervous when anybody talks about the Creator.
And I couldn't help beginning to think about why are we all so related, all human beings around the world? And is that not, and the modern theories of humans arising in Africa and spreading out from there. But yeah, everyone has their own creation story, and it usually starts with where they happen to be.
I liked how he used the word Anishinaabe, as it was so inclusive to how we think of all indigenous peoples.
Okay. And the last one, Carolyn.
Go back and see where we were. Read about the 7 prophecies first, and you'll understand how things have taken place. The 7 prophecies.
Do other people feel it's kind of loud? Yeah.
Accurately predict everything that has happened to us. But we live in a very precarious time, because it says that in a time of the 7th fire, a new people will rise up. And those new people are sitting among you. They're sitting among us. They're right here. That new generation is right here with us. And they're watching and they're listening. They are the ones asking, what is my name? Where can I find my spirit name? Where can I find my due date? Who knows my clan? Those are the questions they are asking. If you're not listening, they will go somewhere else. They will ask somebody else. We are in the time of the seventh fire. We are in that time. All of these things that are happening in our land is part of that description. The attempt to mine the Panoki Mountains is part of that prophecy to our generations. I want them to have the kind of land that we grew up on, where water is clean, where the birds continue to sing, where wawashkeshi is good to eat, where there's good food and good berries on the land. That's what we deserve, and that's what our children and our coming generations deserve. Miigwech Basinda. Thank you very much.
The Wabash, by the way, is bear. I was wondering. I'll finish by reading about the time of the seventh fire from the Mishona's book. First, what that means for Native people, but then also what it means for us, light-skinned race. The seventh prophet that came to the people long ago was said to be different from the other prophets. He was young and had a strange light in his eyes. He said, in the time of the seventh fire, a Oshkibi Madizig, new people, will emerge. They will retrace their steps to find what was left by the trail. Their steps will take them to the elders, who they will ask to guide them on their journey. But many of the elders will have fallen asleep. They will awaken to this new time with nothing to offer. And that could reference people's struggles with addiction. Some of the elders will be silent out of fear, which might relate to the trauma history. Some of the elders will be silent because no one will ask anything of them. The new people will have to be careful in how they approach the elders. The task of the new people will not be easy. If the new people will remain strong in their quest, the water drum of the Madewawan Lodge will again sound its voice. There will be a rebirth of the Anishinaabe nation and a rekindling of old flames. The sacred fire will again be lit. And we do see evidence of this in Indian country now. New interest among young people in their native languages, teachings, and culture, new interest in how food is raised, where it comes from, reclamation of stolen artifacts and sacred lands, and resistance to development that harms land and other natural resources and systems. And I'll continue. It is at this time that the light-skinned race will be given a choice between two roads. If they choose the right road, then the seventh fire will light the eighth and final fire, an eternal fire of peace, love, brotherhood, and sisterhood. If the light-skinned race makes the wrong choice of roads, then the destruction which they brought with them in coming to this country will come back to them and cause much suffering and death to all the earth's people. Traditional Made people of Ojibwe and people from other nations have interpreted the two roads that face the light-skinned race as the road to technology and the road to spiritualism. They feel that the road to technology represents a continuation of the headlong rush to technological development. This is the road that has led modern society to a damaged and seared earth. Could it be that the road to technology represents a rush to destruction? The road to spirituality represents the slower path that traditional Native people have traveled and are now seeking again. The earth is not scorched on this trail. The grass is still growing there. The prophet of the fourth fire spoke of a time when two nations will join to make a mighty nation. He was speaking of the coming of the light-skinned race and the face of brotherhood and sisterhood that the light-skinned could be wearing. It is obvious from the history of this country that this was not the face worn by the light-skinned race as a whole. That mighty nation spoken of in the fourth fire has never been formed. If we natural people of the earth could just wear the face of brotherhood and sisterhood, we might be able to deliver our society from the road to destruction. Could we make the two roads that today represent two clashing worldviews come together to form that mighty nation? Could a nation be formed that is guided by respect for all living things? Are we the new people of the seventh fire? In the fall, when I share that last extended land acknowledgement, I'll also speak about how author, educator, and researcher Robin Wall Kimmerer, in her book, Breeding Sweetgrass, can help guide us, the light-skinned race and others, towards that great possible nation. Kimmerer draws on and references the Mishomis book in Breeding Sweetgrass, and we'll get a hint of this when we extinguish the chalice today.